From 13 WREX, your weather authority, this is 13 News Today.
Help is on the way to hospitals struggling with COVID-19 cases across Illinois. How many emergency workers are coming to the state line?
And this tax season is going to be a busy one for the Internal Revenue Service. What you need to know before you file for 2021 returns.
And the Today Show is celebrating a milestone for the program and television in general. We look back on 70 years of Today and how it's evolved. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to 13 News Today. I'm Evan Leake.
And I'm Maggie Polsine. It is finally warmer in the state line, but with that comes some showery, snowy rain chances. Claudia, what's things going to look like this afternoon?
Well, it looks like we are in for yet another milder day. I don't want to use the word warm because we aren't going to end up climbing. We reached into the lower 40s yesterday. Today, we're tracking into the middle 30s. Still a little bit warmer, above average. Also tracking a chance for some flurries, slowly inching closer to the state line, as we are going to see these chances stick around for just your morning hours, along with some foggy conditions. You might notice that stepping out the door or on your way out this morning. Looks like visibility is reduced in a couple of spots, under a mile in places like DeKalb, so may end up seeing some localized dense fog. But as of right now, out here on the weather deck, not too bad, just a little bit hazy above our heads as we head out the door early this morning. Now temperatures are going to slowly warm throughout the day, as we are going to reach into the 30s a little bit later, middle 30s for your afternoon, as that cloud cover is going to slowly end up breaking up for mostly cloudy conditions a little bit later on. So we are going to see chances for flurries early this morning, with temperatures back into the 30s later on, but tracking another chance for some snow a little bit later into tomorrow night. I'll break down the rest of those details a little bit later. Back to you.
Thank you, Claudia. Your 13 News time. It's 5 o'clock. Let's get to news making headlines this morning. State leaders announced extra relief efforts are headed to Rockford to fight COVID-19.
Just today, a dozen additional personnel are beginning to work in the Rockford region. That's help being provided by the Federal Emergency Management Agency.
Governor Pritzker didn't say where those FEMA workers are headed, but we do know some state workers are helping at Swedish American. Pritzker announced yesterday a statewide response team of more than 2,000 people, half of whom are already in hospitals battling COVID. As of Tuesday, 64 state responders are giving a much-needed boost at UW Health.
Right now, we have 64 staff members here that the state of Illinois has helped us secure, from respiratory therapists to RNs to imaging to ED techs, CNAs. I can't fathom where we would be if we didn't have 64 staff members here.
That's not where the incoming help stops, though, as another 550 state workers are scheduled to go to hospitals in need tomorrow.
New this morning, conflict on Capitol Hill as lawmakers consider two voting rights bills today. But the big question, what could these bills mean for you? Britt Conway breaks it all down.
Voting rights front and center on Capitol Hill, with two bills President Joe Biden is pushing.
I'm tired of being quiet.
The Freedom to Vote Act looks to make it easier to vote. Election Day would be a public holiday. You could register the same day as an election. There's a guarantee you could vote by mail, and people with past felony convictions would be able to vote in federal elections again. It would also limit changes to congressional voting districts and keep track of money given to groups looking to influence elections. The second bill is focused on bolstering the 1965 Voting Rights Act, forbidding racial discrimination in voting, quietly brokered between President Lyndon B. Johnson, Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., and other civil rights leaders. In fact, the new bill is named after a civil rights icon, the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, which looks to regulate voting rule changes and redistricting in states with a history of voting rights violations. The previous requirements were struck down by the Supreme Court in 2013. For Democrats, the bills push back against new voting laws around the country that limit access to voting. But Republicans say it's federal overreach. Getting these bills through the House is one thing, but advancing them in the gridlocked Senate isn't likely, even if there's a push by Democrats to change the rules to make it happen. And all of it expected to take days to play out. I'm Britt Conway reporting.
Your 13 News time, it's 5:03. A chaotic tax season could be filled with what the IRS is calling an enormous challenge. That means your refund may take a bit longer to get to you.
I anticipate this tax season to be extremely busy, not only for the tax preparers, but also for the taxpayers as well.
The IRS blaming staff shortages for creating a nightmare scenario, saying it might have 1 million returns backlog, but the number this year is several times worse. One reason is because call centers just can't keep up. The IRS says it was unable to answer 2/3 of the calls it received last year, and processing centers for paper tax returns were closed for much of the pandemic. All this adds to an already complicated tax filing year with COVID relief and increased child tax credits.
They sent out half of it in 2021, which has to be reconciled on the 2021 tax return. So that's going to create a lot of chaos.
So what does this mean for you? Well, tax experts recommend you file early. The IRS begins taking returns on January 24th and file electronically. Experts say filing paper forms is going to add time. This year's deadline is April 18th for most filers.
Tomorrow marks a very big anniversary for NBC, NBC News, and really just television in general. It marks 70 years of the pioneering morning show Today. The show's obviously changed a lot over 7 decades, but some elements do remain the same. Weather anchor Al Roker's had one of the longest tenures in the show's history, and recently he reflected on the anniversary. Mark Barger reports.
The very first good morning of what I hope and suspect will be a great many good mornings.
The first of decades of early mornings began with Dave Garroway when he launched Today in 1952.
It was really a gamble because nobody was doing television that early in the morning.
In fact, only 1/3 of American households had a TV back then.
We are in touch with the world.
For the first time, people saw what goes into the making of a television broadcast.
These are our tape recording machines.
It really was revolutionary. A lot of people didn't think it was going to last, but it did.
Curious passersby could peek through the show's Rockefeller Center street side window just as they do today.
I love it!
With doors also open now to the studio plaza.
And people are still waving and holding up signs and hoping that somebody back home sees them. How great is that?
Although not everything from those early days has transcended time.
You got your own desk, now go away.
Like a simian co-host named J. Fred Muggs, the Today team has always made room for joy and laughter in the morning.
We poke fun at ourselves far more than anybody possibly could. But you can do that when you A, love each other, and B, trust each other.
Welcome to Today.
While making sure the original morning mission of reliable news, information, and entertainment endures.
We are, in a sense, a video and oral history of the last 7 decades of this country.
One TV personality,
and look at these temperatures,
has seen it close up for 26 years.
You look at literally the pantheon of icons who've come through this broadcast. And you think, wow, how did I end up here?
Inside Studio 1A, where an indelible foundation was built.
This is a program from America to America.
70 years ago. Mark Barger, NBC News.
So much evolution, but the heart of that show still remains the same. Today celebrating its 70th anniversary tomorrow, and you can watch that celebration right here on 13 WREX.
Your 13 News time is 5:07. Early this morning, conditions are very similar to yesterday, just with some areas of fog. Temperatures will be above average once again before we start to cool off and even get a chance to see some snow. I'll break down the details coming up.
And did you know whether you're in our area or you're on the road, you can get accurate hour-by-hour forecasts on the 13 Weather Authority app. No matter where you go, 13 Weather Authority has you covered. We'll be right back.